Let's get ourselves started again. As you recall, we've been working on our design for an addition to our engineering building, and we've handled the issue of timing, how we could go through and add additional phases and think about how things get added at different points in time and then display different views that show those different points of time accurately, showing what's either been added or demolished. Now we're going to go ahead and take a look at the other dimension we want to explore within this module. And that's the whole idea that there's different realities, different versions you might want to show so that you can kind of offer different versions to clients so they can understand that they have different options. Most clients like to have different options for how different things could be arranged. So you'd like to be able to offer those, but again, maintain them in a single model so you don't have several independent models that have to be maintained simultaneously. Because the problem is, if you make a change in one model, you might have to then percolate that change across many different models. So it's better if you can to kind of capture that in a single model so you can maintain it all in one spot. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at how you do that. So similar to phases, we're now going to explore an option or a feature called design options, which lets us support these alternate realities or kind of different versions of what we can offer as design options. Okay, so let's take a look at this. You go through and create and offer design options through the design options tool. It's right here under the Manage tab. And in the design options tool, you're going to find there are sort of two main concepts we have to deal with. One is the whole issue of an option set. An option set is a group of different design options that are related. Somehow within an option set, all the different options are alternatives on that single issue. So think about the set as being the higher level concept. That's a group of different options. And then design options are individual alternatives within that set. So let's go ahead and kind of create some new ones to make them available for us. You see I already had some set up in this model for some other things we might think about, but let's create some new option sets for things that I want to think about here. So for example, as I'm looking at this plan, one thing I might want to think about is just this arrangement of offices over here. So we've got a lot of new offices in our new wing, and these are kind of closed offices, ones that are sort of very independent and separate from each other. So I might think about whether I want to offer the ability to have open plan offices, larger, more open collaborative spaces versus separate offices, and offer that as an option set. And here's how you do it. You come on over and you'd say, let's create a new option set. Okay, this has a name, so let's go through and rename that. I'm going to call this like open plan versus, we'll call it just separate offices. Okay, that's a set. Now we're going to have a couple of different options within that set. So the first one might be, I'll call it separate offices. That might be the default that we're thinking about. Now we're going to create a new option under that option set. And that new option, I'll rename that to be open plan. Super. Okay, so now we have one option set and two different options. This one that is labeled primary is kind of a special one. That's considered the leading candidate. That's the one that'll typically be displayed by default, but we're going to learn how to adjust that later. Okay, let's create another option set for another feature. For example, let's have a feature where we're going to look at the facade of the extension over here and whether it's going to be kind of the standard stone or whether we're going to offer more glazing as potentially an option. So let's look at that. We'll come over here and again, we have the option set I've created. I'll rename that. So this is going to be our facade. Well, features, I'll just call it that. We'll call it glazing. Be a little more specific about it so we can figure out what it is later. So this first option within that set might be, I'll call it my kind of standard stone panels. And my second option within that set might be something more like curtain wall. Okay, so we're just setting up just really holders for some different things that we're going to make available to ourselves. Let's just go ahead and kind of think about how those will work, and then we'll actually sort of start adjusting things to use those. So the idea is as follows. Let me close this up. We're starting out by just having kind of the main model. This is the kind of current version of the model, the way we've designed it right now. Okay, this main model shows up down here at the bottom in the status bar. Okay, but you'll see that there's actually different versions available here too. The main model shows the things that are common to all the different design options, as well as it's considered the primary option in each of those different sets. Okay, and if I want to change something about one of those sets, what I can do is just switch over and I'll be editing that option. So for example, let me go to the open plan option. Okay, and just for the purpose of showing how things make a difference, let me add something in this design option. It's not going to be relative to the open plan, but I'm just trying to show you how this basically works. We'll go back and kind of make that change in the next kind of little submodule here. So let's go ahead. I'm just going to add something in that option. Okay, so I've added it to the open plan option. Let me go back now and switch over to the main model. Okay, it's not showing in the main model right now, and that is because if we look at open plan's not the primary option. The primary option is separate offices. Let's go ahead and make a different kind of change in separate offices, just so you can sort of see the difference. Again, this isn't really a real design, but this will sort of illustrate the point of how these different alternatives work. So I put something in separate offices, and if I go back to main model, that is displayed. So the reality I'm displaying for this specific issue is this cylinder that's part of the separate offices option. Now, if I want to instead go ahead and show that version, okay, which has the square tube as opposed to the round tube, and the open plan in the main model, what I'm actually have to do is sort of change what's considered to be the primary option. The primary option is always the one that's displayed by default. It's your leading candidate. So if I want to do that, what I have to do is as follows. I can always go and edit when I'm editing those different versions. So let me go back to separate offices versus primary or open plan. You'll see the options there. I can make those changes. I can do whatever I need to do the edit. That's fine. But the problem is, again, when I come back to main model, it won't show those. It'll always show whatever's primary. So to figure out and set what's going to be primary, what you do is under the Manage tab, under Design Options, you can actually just choose which of the different options will be primary in each set. So for example, if I want to make the open plan primary, I'll make that primary. Okay, it's now displayed in the main model. The other one's still around. Separate offices is there. But that becomes now the primary, and because it's the primary, it's going to be displayed in the main model by default. Okay, so hopefully I'll get you started with the whole notion of these alternate realities and how you kind of swap them in and swap them out. Next, we're going to go ahead and take a look at how we actually add things to those different options and take advantage of that feature to do something a little bit more realistic. But for right now, go ahead and practice just with setting up a couple of different option sets that have a couple of different options in them. And we'll use that as the basis for starting to add to our model.